Please sign in and state your name, but not your address, but that you do live in Monroeville.
Good evening. My name is John Yakum, Monroeville resident. Mr. Mayor, members of council, Manager McKinney, Solicitor Dice, good evening to all of you again. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to address you in council this evening. During the past several months, we have begun to see those responsible for the terrible violation of personal privacy and individual liberty held accountable. There have been several terminations which the press has linked to the privacy violations. The Pennsylvania Attorney General has done an investigation and has drawn conclusions similar to what we have seen in the paper from the Dickie McCamey investigation. There seems to be some consistency to the responsible parties. Several months ago, I addressed council and specifically asked about CHRIA, the Criminal History Records Information Act. Mr. Mayor, if you recall, you asked Fire Chief and then council candidate Ron Harvey to respond to my allegations. If my memory is correct, he claimed that there were no violations. I guess the Attorney General's office sees it differently. I hope you, the minority of this current council, and the council-elect notice some of the choice words used by Mr. Churba. He seemed to be implying that based on their investigation, there were significant violations of CHRIA, but there were no sanctions because of the cooperation and corrective actions taken by McKinney and Pasquarella. He went on to say that these corrective actions are, if these corrective actions are reversed, they would pursue more stringent criminal and civil actions. I also find it a bit interesting that the shadow counsel is making decisions in the newspaper. To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Mayor, our current council has not heard, as a body, the reasons for the termination of the former chief or the dismissed dispatchers. Mr. Duncan had asked some questions last month, but when someone suggested the council go into executive session, it never occurred. So this council, as a body, really does not know why any of the recent terminations have occurred. The shadow counsel could not be aware of any discussions because the executive session never occurred. And it would not have been there even if it had. Furthermore, they have not had any access to the Dickie McCamey report. So, Mr. Mayor, how can either council really know if the decisions made to terminate employees were righteous or not? It would seem to me that McKinney and Pasquarella have been doing the right thing. I heard one of your cronies suggest that there had been a knee-jerk reaction. I think McKinney and Pasquarella's actions have been cautious and prudent. They have let the process work its way through. And, Mr. Mayor, McKinney and Pasquarella have done this under tremendous and misguided public pressure. The knee-jerk reaction, Mr. Mayor, has been with the three council members-elect comments in the paper. They have made the case for reinstatement without seeing or hearing the facts or the evidence. The other thing that I find interesting is that while the current majority has been accused of micromanaging the manager and the chief, the opposite is actually true. The majority of council has let manager and chief slowly and deliberately work the process. See, Mr. Mayor, the process protects all of us. So, Mr. Mayor, we have a chief and a manager who have done the right thing to protect our citizens in our police department. They have done the right thing under tremendous public pressure. They have done the right thing in the face of death threats, and they have done the right thing after hearing threats made against their families. They have faced tremendous pressure. They have done the right thing, and you, the current minority, and the four newly elected members of council have made multiple statements that you want and will reverse their actions. Mr. Mayor, I want to make a promise to you. If you or the new council reverse the decisions that have been made to protect our community, you will be called out for it, and the Attorney General will know about those actions before your gavel comes down to close that meeting. Mr. Mayor, McKinney, Pasquarella, Allison, Erb, Drumheller, and Ramsey have faced abuse, harassment, embarrassment, threats of bodily harm to themselves and their family members, threats to their employment and the employment of their family members. They have been ridiculed while sick. They have had their children called out and threatened, and yet they have stood firm. They have stood firm because they had taken an oath, and that oath was to protect the citizens. And for the last 10 months, that is exactly what they have done. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen,